We at the Cheryl Reeve Show are very excited to announce our first live show, May 16th. That's a Wednesday, 5 p.m., right during happy hour at Freehouse in the North Loop, right off Washington Avenue. We've told you about Freehouse. They have a great patio area. They have a great bar area. Obviously, a lot of space in their restaurant. We are planning on setting up in the bar area. If you'd like to come listen to the show, say hello to Cheryl, say hello to me or anybody else involved in the network. Please get there, early if you can. If not, come anytime. We will schmooze before and after the show. We'd like to introduce you to our network, to our show, and to the Freehouse. And we will be doing a series of live shows at the Freehouse over the next few months. This will be the first, and we'd love to see you there. If not at this show, come out and see the next one. Welcome back to the Cheryl Reeve Show, starring Cheryl Reeve, the Lynx coach and basketball boss, who's here with me. I'm Jim Suhan. This is our women's basketball, social issues, and all sports combined show on the Talk North podcast network. You can find all the shows at talknorth.com. By the way, if you want to subscribe to just this show, you can do so at iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We certainly love it when people subscribe to all the shows, but people aren't going to listen to 10 podcasts a week. We understand that. And if you're just interested in this show specifically, feel free just to subscribe to this show. Also go to talknorth.com and check out the other shows. We have a lot of great people on the network. Thanks to Freehouse, our new sponsor. Freehouse, located in the North Loop, will tell you more about their beer, their food, Cheryl's favorite dish over there later in this show. And also, we will be doing our first live show at Freehouse. We're probably going to average one a month over there, May 16th. So that's Wednesday upcoming at Freehouse in North Loop. We'll be getting the specific time to you sometime here in the near future. We're going to hit a lot of diverse subjects today, Cheryl. But let's start with baseball incongruously. What we've seen early in the baseball season, and this has been very prevalent lately as pitch counts and pitcher injuries have become more prevalent. Max Scherzer had a dominant performance going this weekend, and he got yanked early, and he was not happy about it. We've seen a couple pitchers with no-hitters this season get yanked before they could finish the no-hitter because the team was concerned about their pitch counts. You have to deal with this. You have great players. So you deal with egos, you deal with playing time. How do you handle this kind of thing?
Well, in the case of a situation where it was a player of the caliber of Max in terms of who he is in the clubhouse and essentially a franchise player for that team, that carries a little bit different weight than maybe somebody not in the same category. So, for example, for us, our starting group, I've experienced this with a few players along the way that maybe you're thinking you're going to take them out, for whatever the reasons are. Maybe they look tired, and so along the way you develop a trust. And so for me, when I look at something like the situation with Max, who clearly was saying he didn't want to come out, he felt like he had enough stuff and wanted to keep going. I would have erred on the side of letting him go, and as long it wasn't going to be to the detriment of the team, because obviously you saw how it worked out. So I'm going to be in a case where I'm going to say I have to develop trust, and I want Max to feel good about his ownership in the team and that he has a say in things. And so Lindsay Whalen, Simone Augustus, Maya Moore, Rebecca Brunson, Sylvia Fowles, if they feel strongly about something, then I'm going to let him go. And so I would have erred on the side of letting him stay in the game. And because you trust how they feel, you trust their mindset, and he probably deserved to keep going in that situation. At the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, it would have been on Scherzer's shoulders, not the coaches. And I think that's really big.
There's a great example of this in Minnesota sports history. 1987, Tom Kelly was he wasn't one of the first managers who really relied heavily on specialized bullpens, but he did believe that, and I used to talk to him about this all the time, he did believe that after about 2 hours on the mound, after a certain number of pitches, that pitchers deteriorated. They became a little tired. They became less effective no matter how they thought about it. So he believed, make the move before the guy gets in trouble. Then it gets to Game 7, 91 World Series. Jack Morris is on the mound. In a normal game, I think Tom would have already taken him out. But in this case, the way Jack was pitching, in that setting, he goes down to the end of the dugout and says, basically starts asking him, do you want to stay in? And Jack cuts him off, tells him he wants to stay in. And Tom goes, go get him. Basically.
Easy call.
Yeah.
Easy call. Absolute easy call.
But it's amazing how complicated people have made that call in modern baseball.
Well, and it's about trust, I think. And I do think we're overanalyzing some things, that like the analytics piece of this thing can really get in the way of simple human nature. I've had situations, really just mostly with Lindsay where, I'm feeling like maybe I'm going to do right by her by taking her out, get her a little more rested to go down the stretch. But they know, these athletes, these level of athletes know exactly how they're feeling and what they have. And, I'd say in this case, like I said, the pitch count, I just would struggle with that, because you get a feel, you get a trust about what you're doing.
And not all athletes are the same. And they don't all work exactly as hard as each other either.
That's exactly right. And, maybe, and I look into a player's eyes when they say that they want to stay, because sometimes they might be saying it because they think that's what they should say or what you want to hear. And so you got to see what's real. And just the time that you spend with an athlete, whether you can count on them, to tell you, what's really inside of them. So, I suspect that there was enough background on Scherzer that they should have known that this was a guy that was going to be able to handle that, and it would not be to the detriment of the team.
You sound like a sports columnist. Just saying, hey, come on, listen up. You don't have to do everything just because your book says so.
I agree.
I'm going to throw a pet theory at you, and something I might write about here in the near future. Analytics are so ingrained in modern sports, and especially in baseball, and they have yielded great success with the Cubs and Theo Epstein and the Red Sox. They become almost more of a necessity than an option. But my theory is that if you don't, I guess my shorthand theory is personality is at least as important as analytics, and analyzing personalities is at least as important in analytics. You look at the great teams, great players, the personalities work. And if you have an analytically driven team that doesn't have the right personalities, it's not going to work.
Well, as you know, I couldn't agree with you more. That's a big piece. We love the analytics, and the analytics tells you a lot. That's it's fascinating. The things you can share with players to help them perform better. And but at the end of the day, there is that element of who they are as a person. Their inner drive, their way, so the personality part of it, that's absolutely huge. I would never sacrifice that part for analytics only. Never.
So Tom Thibodeau, I think right now is the only coach / GM. Now, Scott Layden does a lot for him, but, Tom really has final say in that regard. So the NBA has gone away from that model. Obviously, you have just accepted those roles for the Minnesota Lynx. What do you think of that? That there's only one left, that it's Tibbs, and how difficult has it been for you to combine those two jobs so far?
Yeah. So, I can't necessarily speak to, Tibbs personally and how he handles it, whether he likes it, whether it's a good idea, that sort of thing. I can tell you that in my conversations with Glenn Taylor through my 8 or 9 years of being around it's not the preferred way. Whether it's on the NBA side or the WNBA side, because I think the importance of checks and balances to have someone there. We talked about this, I think, in other climates that, sometimes a coach, when you get in season, you think a little differently than you do when you're in the off season. There's not a pressure of a win or a loss or standings and that sort of thing. And, I think at the end of the day, it is best for it to be two positions, two different people. And in the WNBA, however, it's more about resources. Mm-hmm. And more than half the league, or at least half the league, has the same person that does both positions. It's more economical. I think that for the most part, most of us have handled it pretty well. Do I like it? Probably at the end of the day, I share Glenn's view that I would much rather have somebody else handling the administration of putting a roster together. It's not going to change my thought process. It's not going to change ideas. But someone else having to go execute stuff, wouldn't be a bad thing. And then somebody to bounce things off of. Glenn has moved closer to our team. And so I feel like I do have a resource in Glenn, but somebody that's in it every day. Obviously, he's a billionaire and's got a lot of businesses to tend to. So, hopefully this is going to work out okay. But I wouldn't be mad if somebody came in and said, hey, I think it's a good idea that you have someone else be the general manager.
we both technically work for Glenn. He owns my newspaper. We have very different relationships with Glenn, though. I think I wrote some things in the past that Glenn didn't particularly like. He's very good with a lot of media. He's very accessible as an owner. He's not particularly thrilled when he sees me coming, or sees me in the room. So you get to tell me, because I really don't know, what is it like to have an open employee relationship with Glenn?
Well, it's all about people. And I think about my time here. One of the most meaningful relationships that I have is with the owner of the team and his family, Becky Taylor. It just makes your experience that much more enriching. And, I'm thrilled to be able to provide an on-court product that he can be proud of. But it's to know that I can pick up the phone if I have a problem, could be personal, could be professional, to know that he's going to be there. And if he's not there, he'll call me back within an hour. That's something that not a lot of coaches can say that they have. And so that's special for us. And I like to think that when he sees me coming, he doesn't feel the same way.
No, I don't think he does. And I will say this, when he bought the newspaper, I was like, okay, I'm glad that a local billionaire and someone who obviously cares about Minnesota owns the franchise, owns the paper. I didn't know, how it would affect me, how it would affect the sports department. And obviously his daughter is kind of the on-hand person. And we've been very lucky. They are one of the big reasons we're one of the more stable newspapers in the country. And so
same thing for us as a franchise, WNBA franchise.
It's been great for us on many levels. I want to get to your bench, Becky Hammon, interviewing for a head coaching position. But let's go ahead and thank the Freehouse for sponsoring this program. Again, we will be doing a live show May 16th at the Freehouse. Follow us on social media to find out the details about that. When we've done live shows in the past, we like having a good time. We like keeping it really loose. We would like to engage the audience as much as possible. You get to, you guys act like you're the host of the show and ask Cheryl questions. I'll just be there to kind of wrangle things, but we would like you to show up, have fun, ask questions, get rowdy if you want. But if you haven't been to the Freehouse, I used to live in the North Loop, so when it opened, we were thrilled. We used to go there all the time. We still go there pretty frequently. It's right in the North Loop, right off Washington. Great little patio area. They have a lot of beers that are true to kind of the origins of those styles of beers. My wife's favorite is the Kolsch, which is their number one. Their number 42, which tells you how many beers they have, is the Maybach. They're going to have number 13, the Blueberry Blonde, will be showing up soon. They call it their fan favorite. Reading from, their list here, they say we've also made our first Hefeweizen. I think I pronounced that right, which they're very excited about. You can also pair beers with certain meals. The Roto Bird is one of my favorites over there. That they recommend the number 2 IPA with that. They have caramelized, easy for me to say, Thai pork, which pairs well with the number 3 brown. Check out their menu and their specials, their happy hours at FreehouseMPLS.com. And Cheryl, I know you have your own favorites over there.
I do. I love the Freehouse. I love to, especially in the off season, I get around the city a little bit and had a chance to experience Freehouse. I go there for breakfast quite frequently. I love the breakfast bowl. And I'll get my shot of protein and I'll sit there and probably have about 8 or 10 iced teas. Just a fun environment, great people, and we appreciate their support as a sponsor. And
I always thought when I used to go there, man, this would be a great place to do a podcast.
Absolutely.
They have a lot of space. They have a good bar area, and I know they will treat us right. Steph Shimp and the staff over there, they know what they're doing. I'm just a big Blue Plate fan in general. So Becky Hammon is interviewing for the Milwaukee Bucks head coaching job. We can say that's a good thing. It certainly breaks down a certain barrier. Do you think it's a realistic thing? Do you think it has a chance of happening, or do you think this is somebody finally just putting a toe in the water?
Well, I think I can see both. I certainly don't want to minimize, the opportunity that Becky has earned to interview with an NBA franchise, to be the leader, as a head coach. I'm a bit skeptical, I'll be honest with you, because I think that the culture of men's sports is one that, has indicated that they don't have a lot of confidence that women can do these things. It's like the only industry that doesn't have women lead. I mean, we're generals, we're admirals in the armed forces, we're CEOs, we're politicians, we're leading universities, but yet there's nobody leading an NBA franchise or any other professional men's sport. So, forgive me for my skepticism, but at the same time, I'm pleased that Milwaukee took the step of doing what Becky deserved, which was to be, considered as a candidate for that job.